And now I'd like to welcome to TVP World Zarina Zabrisky, a good friend and journalist. Hello, Zarina. Thank you for joining us today.
Oh, do we have some tech issues?
Yes, we're going to try and... Oh, there we go. Now we have Zarina.
Hi there.
Hi. So now, Zarina, so we're looking back at this horrible tragedy that happened in Chernobyl. Of course, many of us who were around in those days remember, pointing to Marie. But in all sincerity, before the Russians invaded Ukraine, of course, many multilateral national efforts were made to make the site safe and secure for the rest of Europe, because it still poses a threat to this day. However, we all know the Russians invaded Ukraine and they occupied the area, posing their own dangers to the safety of not only Ukrainians, but also others abroad. I know, Zarina, you were there just after the Russians withdrew from the area. And so let's talk about that. What exactly did you see and experience when you went into that area back in 2022?
Well, Dawn and Marie, hello. And this is a dark anniversary. Not only I was there soon after the Russians retreated from Chernobyl, I actually was quite close to the station when it happened. So I can tell you that from the start go, this tragedy was covered in mystery, because at the time the Soviet authorities would not share with the people of the Soviet Union what was happening. And as a result, a lot of people suffered unnecessary trauma, and a lot of people are still suffering, even as far as in Kyiv, from thyroid diseases. What happened in the beginning of the full-scale invasion, the Kremlin was eager to use the Chernobyl nuclear power plant station as a dirty bomb from the start go. It was one of the first objects that they have entered. And there was a very dramatic story of the staff shift that were held there for many weeks, basically as hostages, as prisoners, and they were made to attend to the remaining facilities, which was critical because, as you said, and your experts have mentioned, there are still conditions under which the nuclear waste can present a danger, namely if the coolant is not maintained at a certain temperature. So these Ukrainian experts were there attending to the European safety. And I did go to the town of Slavutich, which is a satellite town about 60 kilometers from Chernobyl, to speak to these people, basically heroes who couldn't sleep. They were kept in the rooms where they had to sleep on the floor and on chairs. Sometimes there were not enough food, but they did what they could, and the worst did not happen. And as the Russians entered the area around the station, we not famous ghost town of Pripyat, the one with the famous Ferris wheel that we all know from horror movies. They, uninformed, started to dig trenches in the most nuclear dangerous in the area with the highest radiation in the zone, called Red Forest. So I went there to research and investigate and see if it actually happened. It was hard to believe. And I was lucky enough to speak to the managers of the security and safety facility that still operates in Chernobyl. And I did a number of video reports and articles from there, and I have witnessed with my own eyes that in fact the Russian soldiers did set sort of a camp in that place, and they were in fact digging certain fortifications. We don't know exactly what the goal was. There's satellite shots, photographs, and the reason this area is so dangerous is because in 1986, the Soviet authorities, again trying to bury what happened, literally buried the forest that burned. That's why it got the name, the Red Forest. And it works, not to go into too many details, but the rescuers forgot to measure the depths of the grave for the forest. And so the new forest is growing atop the remains, and it absorbs the underground waters with all the poisonous and toxic elements in them, including plutonium, if I remember, 239. And the half-life of this plutonium, which is the most toxic of these radioactive substances, is 25,000 years. So if, say, the Red Forest burns within the next 25,000 years, the wind will again carry all this inhalable death all around Europe, far and about.
Right.
And without this knowledge, you can imagine how dangerous it was. Right now, you see the toilet seats that the Russian soldiers were hauling from the radioactive abandoned apartments in Pripyat. The local people explained to me that these toilet seats only appeared in Pripyat after the Russians left. So, as we know, it's not a joke that the Russians they have a predilection of stealing home appliances, including the toilet seats. And here you see the most dangerous toilet seats in the world.
Right, absolutely amazing. Also, I believe they were exposed to the radiation basically when they were building those fortifications. Yes, because the dust had settled. And so they were basically digging that up, and they were exposed to all this, well, if not deadly, very, very dangerous and toxic material.
Not even just digging, but even driving the military equipment, the vehicles on this road, damaging the surface of the road is dangerous and deadly. So, of course, we didn't have the opportunity to do any research or, say, lab tests for the Russian soldiers in question. So I cannot confirm that they, in fact, were suffering from any consequences of their actions. But according to all the experts that I spoke at the time, they would most likely endure certain diseases that are connected with the radioactive risks.
Right. Okay, well, Zarina, we've run out of time. Thank you very much for joining us and telling us about your experience there. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Zarina.
Thank you again for having me.